All right. Hopefully everybody can see the slide that says club officer training on it. If you can't, speak up right now. All right, we'll get started. Um, so a lot of you are repeat officers. You know how especially treasurers and secretaries tend to repeat a lot. We really like presidents not that much to get somebody new in and get somebody with experience in treasurer and secretary, but that's just how it works sometimes. Um, So you've been elected. Um, I'm not going to read all these slides. You guys can read them, but you're, you know, people in your club recognize you as a leader, so they've chosen you to take the role you've taken in your club. And if you're coming into an event in July, that's fabulous. So anyway, so there we are. Oops. So we've got some goals we're going to try to cover tonight. A little Lions history. It's always good to know. A little bit about the structure of the international districts, things like that. Uh, what your club leadership structure might look like. Duties and responsibilities for each of the main officers. Um, I'm not going to go over the Constitution and bylaws, but it's always a good thing for you to have a copy of those and be familiar with them for your club. Meaningful projects, they're hugely important to successful clubs. Many of you come from clubs with some big projects and are very successful clubs. And that's one of the reasons you are. What's a good meeting? We're going to talk about that, and you guys can let me know what you think are good meetings about. And then, of course, you've got we've got a fair amount of secretaries and some treasurers. You've dealt with the new Lions portal. Um, our secretary training will go deep into it on Wednesday. But the access to portal has changed, so any person in your club can sign in and look at stuff. And I would encourage you guys to in your clubs to have people sign in. Anybody can do or can report a project. What they can't do, what only the club admin, secretary, or president are the only ones that can approve the projects as they get posted. But people can actually enter them, so you can have chairman of a committee for a project actually enter the stuff instead of just the secretary doing it all. Anyway, so a little bit of background on Lions. We got a mission statement. Our mission is to empower Lions Club's volunteers and partners to improve health, well-being, strengthen communities, and support those in need through humanitarian services and grants that impact lives globally and encourage peace and international understanding. You ever heard that one before? We also have a vision statement to be the global leader in community and humanitarian service. And of course, our international motto is we serve. And there used to be 5 global causes, and now I think there's 8. We'll have to count them. So childhood cancer, diabetes, disaster relief, environment, humanitarian causes, hunger, vision, youth. So what these are, they're just the international says these are the things that we like to focus on. Your club cannot not even use this list if you don't want to. It's clubs are highly encouraged to do their own thing to a certain extent. They're great causes, and most clubs have a touch in them. Our club is heavy into vision. And the food banks, we work closely with a lot of the food banks and some with diabetes. There's other focuses anyway that for a lot of clubs. I'm gonna just take a second here. And so why don't you guys hop in and tell us, anybody got any unique things that your club does that you're very proud of in terms of your causes that you support? Not everybody at once. Come on, you guys do stuff that you're very proud of. Talk to me about it.
When it does a cancer walk. And last year we raised more than Lewiston. And then we do vision through the schools, vision screening.
Yeah, a lot of clubs doing vision screenings now. That's great.
And we have one family here that we're supporting in diabetes.
Oh,
went to
excellent.
diabetes youth camp, and then this year the mother went to the diabetes
Parents.
camp.
Excellent. I just happen to have a side job. I'm the president of the diabetes camp group, Montana Youth Diabetes Alliance. So that's my little personal side. And so our club supports that because I make them. No, just kidding. Anybody else?
In Ennis, we have a program where we have signs up at the ballpark, and all the proceeds go towards scholarships for the graduating seniors. And we also just started supporting a fund that we found out about that's at the school called the Angel Fund, where we donate to that, and it helps pay for kids' lunches that are that can't afford them or are behind on payments.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, over here in Forsyth, this is Daryl. I mentioned the Springs project a few minutes ago. That's one of our big things, I think, and it keeps it's a deep water spring that provides water for a lot of the rural community and others that want something straight from the ground that's good for you instead of city or whatever else. So people stop from all over the place to get the water at the springs. So that's kind of one of our signature program as far as diabetes. The program that the state of Montana sponsors that Mike might be familiar with is started with a pharmacist and others here.
Yep.
That deal with that. So we of course support and encourage them as well as they are trying to develop programs to help people deal with diabetes. But otherwise, yeah, help the food banks and various other things. We're aging. Sadly, I'm one of the young ones in the club right now, so that's something I'm sure we talk about sometime during this week.
We will how about the next slide?
Okay, yeah.
So the Lions International started they call it Mission 1.5 to grow lions back worldwide to 1.5 million lions by July of 27. Really, it's very fundamental. Number one, figure out some ways, and there's no simple answers to any of this stuff of getting membership, keeping membership. Invite members. You got to invite them. You don't invite anybody, you don't get any new members. So you got to figure out ways to invite people. There's been a lot of people that have been very successful with this program around the country of expanding and growing clubs. The other side of it we're looking at, we've lost a lot of clubs in a lot of the cities in Montana. And so we're looking at trying to start new clubs back in some of these towns that we've lost them in. So major focus on that right now. And of course, is just spread the word. Lions are one of the worst group of people about patting yourself. You don't want to, you're always in Montana, you don't pat yourself in the back. You're arrogant if you do that. But we need to share what we're doing out there so people know what Lions are up to and want to be involved in it. So that's the gist of the mission 1.5.
Mike,
Yes,
Mike, can I mention something?
sure.
I believe that each club has to, each member, but each club, because each of us are members of a club, that we have to take initiative by each club saying our goal, the goal of the club, but obviously the goal of the individual would be to try and bring in one new lion a year. But beyond that is the goal of the club to say, okay, in our club we have 22 members. You could say, okay, we're going to bring in 22 new members. That's a pretty stiff goal to try and reach. But in our club, we say like 3 to 5, and each member is given a responsibility to try and bring one guest a year, if not more than that. But at least that's a start.
Oh, that's perfect.
It's a small start. It's sometimes easier to do than try to bite off 1.5 million and just say, okay, let's grow our club by 2 members this year or 5 members this year, and that would be looking at your membership and saying, well, we've got 2 members that are, hypothetically on deathbed. But I'm not, not to be rude, but that's we already mentioned that we're all graying out, and so we have to take on the responsibility of helping our clubs to take the responsibility to invite the goal, and then each meeting say, where are we at on our goal? Don't just let it say, well, we're going to do that at the first of the year, and then at the end of the year say, well, we didn't even bring anybody in. No, every meeting you say, where are you at on the goal?
Yep.
So it's keeping the pressure on each of us each and every time.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Goal setting is so important.
You bet.
If you don't have something in front of you, it's really easy just to go to the meeting and say, oh, we need some new members. Okay, we need some new members. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
You got to have a plan, and that's a big part of this mission 1.5. There's a whole series there of templates and things on how to proceed with this. And we'll probably have something at the convention. So make sure you come to the convention. Anyway, I'm just gonna touch on this for now because it's a deep subject. So we're gonna jump now to history. It's always good to know exactly where we came from, how we got here. Most of you know that a guy named Melvin Jones in 1917 founded Lions Club International. He was an insurance salesman or insurance guy. And he was involved in a lot of pro-business groups in Chicago, but they were all focused on how do I grow my business and how do I make more money. And he said, we need to do something focused on helping people and doing stuff for people, not just growing business. So he founded Lions Clubs. Our first international club was actually in Windsor, Canada. Anybody know where Windsor is?
North of Chicago.
It's actually south of Detroit. Believe it or not, it's across the river across the lake from Detroit. So, and it actually being south of Detroit in Canada. So that was the first international club. That's where we became international. First club in Montana, Billings Club, 1921. In 1925 is the famous convention that Helen Keller spoke at. and challenged Lions to be Knights of the Blind.
That was 100 years ago.
Yep. In 1968, they formed the Lions Club International Foundation. That's our nonprofit arm of Lions Club. In 1987, Montana Lions Sight and Hearing Foundation was formed. So I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of the Montana Lions Sight and Hearing Foundation. It's basically the purpose of it is to help. It's help people that for major stuff, surgeries, hearing aids. Now we do more hearing aids than anything, partly because Medicare doesn't pay for hearing aids itself. There's types of Medicare that will, but that's the biggest part. So what it does is your club, somebody comes to your club and says, I need help, I need hearing aids. Well, then, you're talking a couple of grand cheaper hearing aids. And most clubs can't just fork out that for one person or don't want to. So the purpose of the Sight and Hearing Foundation is the person will submit an application to the Sight and Hearing Foundation. The Sight and Hearing Foundation will approve it. The club still has a financial responsibility, and now it's $300 portion of it, but it's get somebody help with major stuff without the club having to bear the full brunt of that cost. So currently worldwide, 367 clubs, that's up, and 1.37 million members, that's up a little bit over last year. So we're making progress of getting some members. The United States is still struggling. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but we are gaining. Our current international president, Fabrico Oliveira from Brazil. Okay, that's our history. Structure of Lions Club. They recommended you have to have 20 to start a club, to start a full club, but you can start what's called a branch club. It's a good technique in places where you might want to go after some younger people. And by younger, it depends on who you want to target, but you can start a branch club. They're actually a part of your club in terms of the bookkeeping, but they're their own club in terms of they have a president, they have a secretary and a treasurer. They have their own meetings, they have their own causes, have their own fundraisers, although a lot of times the branch club and the main club will work together on stuff. But that's a way to get a club going in a place where you just can't dig up that 20 people right away. So that's one of the techniques we're trying to use here. We're looking at, we're working on restarting a club. It's been quite a few years in the Lakeside Summers area on Flathead Lake here. So that's the approach we're going to take. Clubs are divided into zones. Typically the zones are 3 to 8 clubs, depending. Some of our areas of Montana are tough to put that clubs together, but you have a zone chairperson that's supposed to be kind of looking out for your zone, visiting your clubs, having zone meetings. And then in Montana, we do have regions. We have 4 regions: north, south, east, and west. It just gives another layer of somebody that's kind of makes it easier than the district governor. We have 13 zones, I think, 12 or 13. I have to look at that. So the district governor would have to, and they still do, talk to and visit with all those 12 or 13 people all the time. He has someone in between that can be an intermediate person talking to the zones in his area. a district, 35 clubs with 1,250 active members. If we fall below either one of those, they put you in they call it I forget the status, but they have to think about looking at doing something about it. Right now, we have 58 clubs in Montana and 1,513 members as of this morning. And the international number was as of this morning. So some of you have come from other areas and they have multiple districts. So we used to be part of a multiple district with Canada. So we had 5 districts that were in multiple district 37. 2 in Montana and 3 in Canada, 2 in Alberta and 1 in the Northwest Territories, or a club in the Northwest Territories. But our numbers just kept falling across it. We decided to go back to being a single district in the state of Montana. So we're a single district. Let's call it a single district. So you'll see some references in material when they talk about MDs, multiple districts. That's what they're referring to. And then the biggie, constitutional areas. So the constitutional areas are represented by international directors. We are in CA1, Constitutional Area 1, which is the United States. Canada is CA2, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the big picture, or that's the picture. Here it is, and it's a little harder to see, but basically, here's all the layers of lines. It's pretty flat. It's really pretty flat. If you look at it in terms of management, there's not a lot. Okay, moving on. Like I said, I'm going to go through this pretty quick, and then we'll have some discussions about some other stuff. This is a standard, and when Lion says standard, this is just something to work with. You are not required to have this, but if the bigger clubs, and we've got several of the bigger clubs represented in tonight, it's always good to have chairpersons in other areas. So, in a really big club, a bigger club of board of directors is very important to have, because they will make decisions on financial decisions, planning, and things like that for the club. So you don't have to have a chaotic meeting with your whole club trying to figure out your budget for next year, for example, or you'll have. So anyway, most clubs you have a president. You'll have, usually a first and maybe a second vice president, secretary, treasurer. One of our weak points I talked about, marketing and communication. It's really nice to have, if you can find someone that has those skills in your club, to have that, to market your club, to do Facebook and put pieces in the paper. And if you've got a radio station or a TV station, you can get some publicity from. That's a great person to have. They list a lot of committees. One of the 2 most important to me on this is your membership and your service. They're really important to have a committee and a committee head on those things. And that little section over there that says Global Action Team, it's duplicated at the district level. So Global Action Team chairperson, of course, is the president. Membership, we have a global membership team leader at the district level. Service, we have a global service team leader. And a leadership, that's my role, to develop leaders in your clubs, so you don't get stagnant and used to have the same officers all the time and things like that. So again, this is just suggested. For smaller clubs, this probably is all your club. So it just really depends on your club, on whether you want to do what your structure looks like for your officers. Any questions so far? Kind of whipping through this. Okay. So duties, and when we do these each night, we'll dig in more into depth on the duties of the officers. So tomorrow night's Mike with the president, and he'll talk, what the president should be doing and what the role is and things like that. But here's a brief. You're the boss. Presides at the meetings, board of directors, and clubs. Vice president. They have the vice president serve as the leadership chairperson. If it takes over, if the president can't be at a meeting, they'd run it, basically. I think the secretary is the hardest, most work myself, my opinion, my 2 cents worth. You've got to take minutes, help prepare the agenda with the president. Some clubs, the agenda, the president prepares the agenda. Some clubs, the secretary does it. Some clubs, it's hard to, those are just up to the club and how it works. Highly recommend having an agenda for your meeting. We'll talk about that in the meeting section. And then, of course, the treasurer. I've been the treasurer for life at my club. Pay the bills. Again, the role of dues and dues collections, that can fall between the secretary. We used to have the secretary send out the bill dues, but I just took it over because it made more sense for me to do it all rather than both collect and track it and things like that. So, and financial reports. And on Thursday, we'll dig into some of that stuff to get into details. Immediate past president. In some clubs, that's unfortunately the same person, but they're just in a guide role. Plus, you can put them to work. You also typically, they ask you to put in a LCF coordinator for your club. Again, we talked about the really important ones, the membership chair. How do we do this? How are we going to do? What are our goals going to be to gain membership? How are we going to do it? And then the service chair is just a person to keep track of what service you're doing. And we're going to talk about service a little bit later because it's a really important way and important part of your club. And I'll admit our club is not the best for service. We raise a lot of money. We hand out a lot of money. That's not really service. It is in a way, you're helping people out, but you're not doing the hands-on stuff that you can draw your people to get the satisfaction of doing something, of working in the park, of building something, of doing something to help people directly, but other than giving them money. So very important part in my opinion. Okay, so on the LCI, and I would guess they've rebranded to LI, Lions Club International. So the website is a huge amount of information. And we'll go to it here in a while, on all kinds of stuff, how to operate a club, how to get new members. There is so much information there. It's just a matter of finding it and using it. I'll show you some little tricks on how to find some of it. But anyway, they have ebooks for each club officer, which are basically it's an electronic book with all these links in it for stuff. So you can help you get to, it'll tell you they're just full of information. I said, well, I'm going to jump out of this in a bit and we'll go to the website and we'll look at some of this stuff, but huge, amazing source of information. Standard constitutional bylaws. So Lions has a standard club constitutional bylaws. In that bylaws, they're laid out of, what to do for your club, but there are some mandatory things that they say you got to have in your bylaws, and then you can have a lot of things. So our other club in the Kalispell area, has a focus on youth. That's their mission, is they only do youth related stuff. So that's in their bylaws. You know, that's not part of the standard club constitution of bylaws, but that's in the part of in their bylaws. So a lot of clubs don't even have, other than the standard constitutional bylaws for them, they don't even have a bylaws that they keep updated. Really good to do the thing because it talks about, you know, and on Thursday we'll talk about dues and in more in detail. But there is one thing that they mandate with your money. It's part of the bylaws. It's mandatory, is the keeping a two separate accounts of a public money account and a club money account, or an admin and what do they call the other one? Activities. And basically, any money you take from the public, sell raffle tickets, pancake supper, however you get money from the public, it's got to be turned around and sent back to the public. You cannot use it for paying somebody's dues. You cannot use it for your Christmas party. You cannot use it to pay for your PO box. All that money has got to come from your club members, in terms of dues, 50/50, other various ways to get that money. But that's one of the real important mandatory things, and it's really cool because you can say to the public, yeah, we're selling these raffle tickets and all the money we take in is going back in one form or another to the public. So it's a really cool deal. Okay. Like I said, I'm just kind of whizzing through this, but you know, these are I thought these were pretty good ideas. You know, you got to have people to keep people in your club, and to get people in your club, they got to do something that's important to them. Diabetes is very important to me. So our club is involved in the youth diabetes stuff. You know, you want to keep growing your club, obviously. Just some of this stuff is obvious. You know, communicating with your members and the public. Absolutely. We absolutely need to keep that. That's so important to keep people up to date. And the other part of that a lot of clubs kind of forget about is recognizing people that are doing good work. You know, it's important. A lot of people, you know, you say, I don't want to be recognized, but it's really nice when your peers and something like Alliance recognize something that you've done. Club events, meetings held regularly. It's always nice to have your club officers be involved in zone and district leadership. Basically, a club in good standing means that you're paying your dues. You're paying your dues, and then reporting to international. And we'll get into that a little bit in a couple more slides of why that is important. Anyway, like I said, there's a ton of stuff on International's website that, you know, they've done this and done this and done this. I've mentioned several times the Club Your Way. That basically means, again, they have a lot of recommendations. They're not, you know, a few things are mandatory. Most of it isn't. This is all available. I'll send you guys all the links that I've got when we're done with this for a lot of this stuff. Real briefly, back to meaningful projects.
Lion Mike,
Yes.
the critical thing that we continually do not ask our officers, even at this particular meeting, is how many of the people that are here, and then going back to your club, how many of the club members in your club are on the portal?
Yeah,
I
and
know I'm on the portal, but I'm still investigating, still working with a lot of the information that you have mentioned that is available.
Yeah.
But I'm just asking the members that are here tonight, how many are on the portal? Because,
I have been.
yeah, that's great.
I am.
Great.
Definitely, definitely have been. It's been useful. It was hard transitions, but it's getting better now.
yeah,
Great.
and they've made a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
And if you're a secretary, especially, Peggy has spent a lot of time working in the portal, figuring things out. So, Wednesday night sessions, she's going to have a lot of stuff that they've fixed a lot of things. They used to, the original stuff for reporting, just reporting projects, reporting work for your club. The original portal didn't have a way to duplicate them, and now they fixed that. So you can take something you do all the time, and just copy it and then fill in new numbers on some of it. So they've improved it a lot, and it's getting better.
I just want to say that was encouraging to have response from the members that are here that they're in the portal, because that is a major challenge, I believe.
And we're going to spend some time at the convention on it.
That's the goal.
So yeah,
That's the goal.
Tom might know that. So I highly encourage everybody. I know hotel prices have gone insane and everything else, but I highly encourage everybody to try to attend the convention. It's a great way to meet, other Lions in the state. There's a lot of information that you're not going to get anywhere else. So anyway, so service projects, why they're so important, especially hands-on doing stuff, because it gives, the satisfaction portion to people. You go out and spend a half a day cleaning up your city park, your Lions Park, and I know a lot of you have them. It's fun. It's, you get some fellowship with your other Lions. You get to do a little work. It's rewarding to a certain extent. You do out those vision screenings are fabulous. Those kids are just amazing. Our club does a flags for first graders. So those kids are great. Just going to meeting the kids and talking about flags and Lions it's just a really cool thing. Anyway, this is all, nothing exciting. But sometimes the club needs to take a look at itself and say, hey, are we doing what we can be doing? Are we doing the best things? Well, we've done this project for 40 years. Is it providing any benefit to our community anymore? Or are we just spinning our wheels? So it doesn't hurt to take a good look at it. And what your community wants is called this community needs assessment. And again, we'll hit some of these links in a little bit. I'm not going to jump to them because this PowerPoint doesn't, on a Zoom meeting, doesn't jump to the links very well. So we'll go back to some of these things, but it's basically it's a framework for going to your community, going to your mayor, city council, whatever city leaders you might have, and saying, what do you need? What do you need us to do? What would be a good thing for our community that we could do? And you get some outside input. So sometimes things like this are really useful. So, and the thing that things are changing. Our club used to meet every week. Now we meet twice a month. Just because but our meetings, we really focus on having community speakers. As as many meetings as we can get that aren't just okay. Here's the treasurer's report, and we got $10, and here's the secretary, oh, we talked about this the last meeting, and okay, so what's the fair committee up to, and what's this committee doing, and you get that reaction that we had in the last slide. You don't have to do speakers, but that's just something our club has always done. We've always had community speakers. We get the mayor, we get the, various local things, other charities come and talk to us about what's going on. Not saying that's something your club has to do, but make sure your meetings aren't totally just boring, because who wants to do that? I'm not going to read all that again. Have fun. Make sure you got a tail twister that does some fun stuff. Important to have a little fun at your meeting. Okay, now the portal. So basically, they've combined, they used to have multiple different systems. The secretary had kind of an area that they reported membership, added new members, drop members, those type of things. And then we had a separate part that was totally different for reporting club activities. And of course, these were all, and they're still kind of separate in some ways, but there's, buying Lions sells supplies if you need them, shirts, vests, whatever you might need. There's a section called Insights, which is really interesting. It's graphs and all that kind of, if you're a numbers person like I am, it's kind of neat to look at all the graphs and the things, and we'll dig into that a little here. We have some time to dig into that a little bit. And then the Learning Center. There are areas for training for officers, zone chairs, district officers. If you get into the district, you'll do part of your vice district governor training will be online. So I am going to try to jump to this. And of course, that didn't work.
Of course.
Come on. I've got that here. Okay, can you see the portal?
Yes.
So
You can.
anybody can create a login on the portal now. If you haven't done it already, that's don't have an account right here. They're going to ask name and your email address. It's got to be the one thing that to make this work. It's the email address that your secretary has entered for you at some point in time in with Lions Club International. So to access, you've got to have that email. So your secretary could check and find out for sure what your email is entered. And if it's an old one, they can change it for you. But you basically go through these 3 steps and click sign up. If they find you, then it takes you on a little journey to fill it out. But then once you have a login, and I use a password manager, so there were some things I really dislike about this they've changed, but here's where I got those numbers, members and clubs that I put in that slide today. It also tells us that this is basically for Lions International. So but like I said, you go to my club, it deals with your club, it has all the, it'll take you, this is the information. Depending on your rights, the rights vary here, but everybody can get into this. what you can see and change depends on what you are in Lions. So I'm just a treasurer in our club, so I can't change a lot of this stuff about meeting locations, and I don't have the specifics to do that, but it'll have all your active members over here. They're basically this club action. So people have struggled with this for some reason. Here's the membership card button. Works pretty much the same way as always worked. You can print out all your membership cards there. So this is the only things I can do, but you can do some view some basic reports on your club. One thing they've changed, you used to do what's called, if you take it back to even paper, there was a MMR, monthly membership report. You used to have to report members every month. Even if they didn't change, you'd say no change. Well, they've done away with that. You don't have to do that anymore. If you have a member, you add a member or remove a member, that's the only reporting that the secretary has to do on membership now.
Best change ever. This is Daryl.
Yeah. Well, there were clubs that were, 12 months behind with that. So a lot of people were really confused, and the reports we get every month from International still have that on it. But eventually they're supposed to take it off. So anyway, that's your basic stuff. That, like I said, anybody that's a Lion that can get into this can report service for their club. They just can't finalize it. So if you want to get people trained on this in your club, and you've got a chair for a specific event or activity, they can enter that. And for example, an activity includes your meetings. You just report your meetings, or it's pretty simple and straightforward. I could create it. I just can't do a final approval of it. And I'm not going to go into this. This is something that Peggy will go over on Wednesday. But they could do it, and then the secretary would just have to go in and say, "Oh, that looks good," or tweak it and then approve it. So you could have other people in your club doing some of this reporting work. Besides just the secretary. The other thing I highly recommend, and it can be the same, it not necessarily the same person. There's a position called an admin on the club. It basically is another person with full secretary permissions, and that gives you just a backup to the secretary. Or you can split the duties between the secretary and the admin, but it does give you another person that can be doing what the secretary is doing, just to take a little load off them. So I mentioned there's the service, there's the membership. I mentioned the learning center. This has got some great stuff in it. So So for example, I can go in and look at what I've done. This is the things some of the things I've completed, because I went through a lot of this just to see what it was about. But they have what they call learning paths. So for example, the club president learning path basically has a couple of classes in it. It has and basically my presentation tonight is kind of based on this. Club officer training as part of it, and then you have all your specifics. They've changed this. I haven't completed this because it's been a long time since I was club president, but these are really good, and they're pretty easy to do, and they're very useful. What'll happen, and I haven't got them in here yet, is I will also so I would encourage, if you're, even if you've been at it for quite a while, to take a look at this stuff. Take a look at the so for example, you're a treasurer. To take a look at the treasurer, there's just 2 classes for the treasurer besides the original club officer training class. Take a look at them. They've got there might be something in there that you find useful. The worst part of this is I have trouble getting back to. It doesn't take you directly back. The other thing that'll happen is this local training, I haven't got these entered yet. I will enter these and enter that you attended. So when you come into if you come in and look at this, and you'll see your you'll see that what you've done, it'll list that you've completed this section. And then, of course, I mentioned, the shop. You can buy all kinds of stuff. The only problem with Lions, buying stuff from Lions, is the shipping's kind of expensive, but some things, the vests, you pretty much either got to make them yourself or buy them from Lions. This reports insight is kind of an interesting place if you're a numbers guy or girl. Sorry. So it takes you to the summary for the world. But you can go into here and what's called drill down. So this is the worldwide, and I want to find our district. Kind of a funky numbering system here, but so there's what our membership has done over the last. This goes back to. It's done by month, basically. So there's this over the last year. And they give the last year's timeline to show you where you're at compared to last year. So that's what our membership has kind of done up and down over the last year. So we're only down 1 member in Montana. We're not doing too bad, really. But if you're into numbers, this is a really cool thing. So that's the nutshell of, by the way, so the trick to find a lot of things in this thing is the search. So if I wanted to, see what Tom's been up to. So that there's actually there's Helena Goldrust. It's a weird system that it has, and it pulls up people that Tom is related to. But anyway, this is how you could find information. A lot of it's okay. It's not going to let me do that. But again, my or sometimes. And depending on what permissions you have, it may take you, but you can find a little bit. I could find Tom's phone number if I need it, or his email. The search is really useful, especially if you're trying to find another club. Find out when they meet or information about them. The search is the best way to do that. Okay, that's that in a nutshell is the portal. Have we got my screen back?
Yep.
All right. I see on my side, I forgot to change my Lions login to the Lions portal. Anyway, there's, this is just some general thoughts that I threw out. Again, most of the clubs that are bigger and a lot of you represent them have a board of directors. Does your club have a budget?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this on Thursday. I think it's really important that you do. That's my 2 cents worth. How often should we meet anymore? We have a club in this area in Whitefish that's growing a huge amount, and to accommodate people, they meet twice a month, and they meet one noon meeting and one evening meeting, twice a month. They've just adjusted themselves to fit what people's schedules to do it. So that's just sometimes you got to be flexible. Tom mentioned this. Do we have a membership plan? Do we have a membership goal? How are we going to do this? Are we just going to say, yeah, let's get some new members? Okay. Now let's talk about the spaghetti dinner. Do you do an orientation for new members? Most clubs don't. And a lot of times you don't get, it's hard to do, but if anybody wants it, I've got a slideshow for new membership. It combines a lot of things what we did tonight, like history. There's a lot of members out there. If you're in your club and you start talking about a Melvin Jones award and they go, huh? Who's Melvin Jones? What's a Melvin Jones award? And anyway, that's why it's really good to have an orientation. There is a how's your ratings thing on the international website of take a survey of your club basically that says, what do you think? What do you think our strengths are? What are our weaknesses? And that goes along with the improving club quality option. And I'm gonna okay. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I talked about. What's called the resource center. I haven't even looked at the AI yet. Anyway, I'll have to do that. First is the section that's improving club quality and resource. So I talked about the Your Club Your Way document. That's right there. Plan for your club success. Club quality initiative. That's the survey. So it's basically a survey that you give out to your club members. How many people are aware of the Club Excellence Award? Anybody?
Given by the governor, right?
No. It
Yeah.
is, but it isn't. You guys have to kind of have talk to your zone chair, and somebody's got to request it on your behalf or your club request it. So basically, to get a Club Excellence Award, your club has to grow. Plus you have to do, everybody does projects. And the governor puts in for it, but somebody has to say, hey, we qualify. We should get this. The governor does not go out and look for clubs to give it to. So anyway, got to have a net membership growth of 2 members or more. There's another 5-star level increased membership by 20%. You gotta have started a new service project in the year. You got to make sure you submit your reports to qualify. Um, you've got to have some contributions to LCIF. So it's basically pretty straightforward. But again, the governor does not necessarily go looking for clubs to qualify. You have to kind of when I was a zone chair, I looked for clubs that qualified and made sure the governor was aware of them to get their recognition. So um, so one thing, this member resource center, this is where come on, cooperate. Not gonna let me do that. So this is the portion where I talked about having all the information for each role. So here's the club president, vice president. Here's the ebook that I talked about. Here's the constitutional bylaws. Oh, I haven't looked at this club troubleshooting guide. I did a while back. There's just so much stuff here. It's just amazing. But here's the president and vice president ebook. So, it's basically meetings, what to do, transitioning, lots and lots and lots of great stuff. Roles, and then these are all links. Standard club structure we looked at, standard form constitutional bylaws. So there is so much information available to you that it just takes a little bit to look at. One of the tricks to the international site is getting around in it can be difficult, and searching. This search engine that comes with it is kind of mediocre. One of the questions that people always ask me, your club has insurance, and you can get a form to say you've got insurance that a lot of people ask for. So there's a certificate of insurance, but see, sometimes you get a hit that gets you right there, and sometimes you don't. That's the hard part. So this is the online printable certificate of insurance for your club. So I find using a Google search with Lions Club International in the search, and then the certificate of insurance tends to take me more directly to places. But just so much information, it's amazing. Anyway, so I've kind of thrown a lot of stuff at you. So now, go ahead. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or hope I noticed somebody's got something in the chat? Yes, you can, Corey. We're plugging it as hard as we can. Anyway, anybody got any questions or comments? By the way, AI, and I haven't looked at the Lion AI yet. It's pretty amazing that let's say you want to do a little article for the paper about some activity you're doing, or about Lions Club in general, and you want some information. The AI stuff can be amazing for doing. You just type in, I want to do a press release for a diabetes walk in Great Falls, Montana. And then the thing will spit out a bunch of stuff that you can, use for that kind of stuff rather than writing. It's pretty slick stuff. I have to look at Ellie and see how well it works. But something to play with if you got some time. It's just been very handy. Really nice for writing grant applications. If you're doing non-LCIF grants and even LCIF grants. Um, you can get started with writing a grant application using the AI, so it's pretty slick stuff. And bear with me for a minute. I gotta make sure I got everybody's attendance here. All right, it looks like I've got everybody that's here. So I've got the emails that you signed up with. I will send out a follow-up with links to a lot of this stuff I've talked about. Things like that.
Line Mike, I
Yeah.
sent you an email with download to, and you can share that with each of the people tonight in the clubs. It's the Helena Gold Rush strategic plan.
Oh, okay. That's excellent.
So it might be it's an easy tool to use that they can use to set their goals and their budgets and their projects expenses and or not expenses, but the goal for each project each year, so on and so forth. So they can look through that just to see if it's helpful as a helpful tool for each club to use. It's a way to move forward. So
Yes, it's great stuff.
So
So
you can look it over. If you can look it over and you can determine if it's usable, but I think it is.
Yeah, that sounds fabulous. It wouldn't hurt our club to do that.
Thanks for sharing that, Tom. I've caught a glimpse of that from Lion Vice President Karina, and I'd like
Great.
to
Yeah.
take a look at that myself too.
Yeah. We have shared it with them. Yeah. We've
I'll add
shared
it to my email I send out. And then Corey asked, and we mentioned it a couple times, we didn't give any details. Do you want to promote the convention a little bit?
Yeah.
Would love to do that.
Oh, there's Corey. Hi, Corey.
Hi, Lion Tom. So Lion Tom and I are on the host committee together. There's 3 clubs that are hosting the convention this year: Gold Rush, Helena Lions, and Broadwater. Lion Mike, I'm going to try to share just one slider. I'm going to see if I have the technology skills to do this. Can you see the one pager?
Nope, not yet.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
Is that seeable?
Yep, there we go.
Okay. So the convention is 2-3 May, Friday and a Saturday, about 5 weeks from now. That design up in the upper left-hand corner is our convention pin. Has the sleeping giant, the guardian of the gulch, and the northern lights kind of symbolize Helena and the greater Montana area. Our slogan for the convention is "We Serve Better Together." Is kind of just expanding on the Lion International motto. Prior to 1 April, the convention price is $150 for members. After the 31st, starting 1 April, it's $175, and that registration can be done online pretty easily. It'll ask you some pretty simple questions and walk you through it. If you want to do a paper one, we can do those also. If you have a non-member that you want to attend, that's a companion price for $100. That price doesn't change. That just stays constant. But I thought I'd throw down what's kind of going on Friday and Saturday. We've got some fun activities set up for folks to take part in. You don't have to walk in the Vigilante Parade. That's something that's done by the local high schools, and it's done down through the Last Chance Gulch, and the theme is the history of the gold rush in Helena. And so the kids get pretty creative with their floats. About an hour and a half parade that'll be, just by luck of the draw, happening that Friday while we're here in town. If you've been to Helena before and done the trolley tour, you kind of know what that's about. That's about an hour and 15 minute where they take you around in a miniaturized train and drive you around the city and talk to you about the history of the city. We've coordinated with the local trap and skeet club to have a lane open. People can just roll in and shoot. You just pay for your shells. We'll have guns there. Get a safety brief and have a little bit of fun. If you're not familiar with Mount Helena City Park, it's the second largest city park in the U.S. behind Central Park in New York. And we've got a route to walk up Mount Helena, and you get a view back out over the valley. And if you want to take a tour of the Capitol, we've got a couple of those laid on. Obviously, there's additional officer training that'll be occurring. And then that Friday night is an Irish-themed social. We've got some unique stuff that we hope everybody will enjoy. Irish blessing from a Fulbright student from the University of Montana will come and talk to us. And then we've got the silent auction, which all the clubs participate in. And then the live auction. And we've got local vendors. We've got a handmade quilt from a local vendor and a trout metal sculpture, some Native American art, some handcrafted gifts. We've got Lions colored themed drinking glasses, a set of 4 from the Goose Bay glass blowers that are in the Townsend area. So some unique stuff to kind of look forward to. And then Saturday is the general business, but I thought it was interesting. We're going to have Helen Keller give her speech again at the 100-year anniversary. And then some of our speakers, the titles of their speeches: Queen of the Jungle, Walking into the Dim. We're still working on a leadership one. But then we'll have the banquet and the keynote discussion by the international director, Robert Marcinkowski, is coming in from Alaska. And then you can also purchase a convention mug, which is there on the right-hand side. It's got the pin design engraved on it. So would love to see some folks. We currently have 70 members signed up, 6 companions. And we're hoping to have at least 120 folks attend this year. So open to any questions.
So I just took over your share, and this is montanalions.org. This is where you would sign up online, and right there, click here to sign up for it. So the other thing that's on that list, we're taking something that has been done at the USA Canada Forum the last few years called speed learning. It's a really fun learning deal where we have all these tables set up and people can go around and learn on various subjects. So that ought to be really fun. But anyway, that's where you would sign up. It's a lot of fun. Great event to go to. So thank you guys for working on it, and the Helen area. It's a lot of work. So appreciate it very much. Anybody else have any other comments or anything? We also are basically repeating this. We usually try to get this done in February. We just didn't accomplish it this year. It would be pretty much what you've seen in this week, again, but in person in Helena. But it's a nice way. There's usually, you get a lot more interaction when you're in person. So if you don't want to do any of the other stuff on Friday and you're coming, we're doing this club officer training sessions on Friday morning at the convention also. All right, well, I appreciate everybody's time. Could be watching basketball instead of doing this.
Thank you, Lion Mike.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lion Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.